Welcome, folks, back to the Average Joe Sports Talk Show. I'm your host, Jay Real. We're glad to have you back in the house for this Friday edition of the show. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to cover a little bit of the NFL, and we're going to talk a lot about the NBA and just a few other little things that are going around the leagues and all the different sporting events right now. First thing we're going to do is we're going to dive into, it's a topic we covered last show on Tuesday, but it just seems like people are not letting this go, and it's getting just plain right ridiculous. And it's about the NBA guy that came out, told about his personal life and that he was a homosexual. And we finished this very short on our last show. Now we have folks coming on trying to compare the individual coming out of the closet saying that he's gay to when Jackie Robinson and the first, I don't know how you say it, the first black athletes that came into the sports, especially in baseball, was where it was really prominent. It was very meaningful for that barrier to be crossed. We have folks now trying to compare this guy coming out of the closet to these guys that were breaking new grounds, breaking first time ever barriers in sports. This is the most ridiculous and idiotic thing I've ever heard in my life. People, when blacks first joined the professional leagues, especially when it was in baseball, these guys were getting death threats. These guys, their whole lives were transformed into a whole nother meaning of life. This was not anything compared to some guy just talking about his personal preferences. Yes, it took guts for this guy to come out in the NBA the way it is today and say what his personal life was about. And that's fine. We're going to give him his props. We did it in the last show. But to compare that to breaking the ethnic and color barriers of athletics back from the, 30s, 20s, 40s, I mean, that you can't even compare the two. And anyone that says that is a moron, basically, because the two are completely different. This is all we're going to say on this subject, and then we're going to move on to something else. This gentleman that came out, again, who cares? I mean, it wasn't any really big name person. We appreciate him being honest. He didn't have to be, but he did. I'm sure there's a lot of young athletes that can look at this guy and say, okay, maybe it's okay for us to be homosexual and play in sports, and that's great. But as far as a hero, as far as breaking some tremendous and just some, I mean, come on, folks. We're in the generation of, now we have shows where drag queens are being the #1 model in America. The drag show or whatever it's called. We are not here to just flip out on people's sexuality. It's been happening over the last decade where we've been getting hit with one after another event of someone, whether it be a celebrity or someone that was a prior sports person, coming out of the closet. So it's nothing new. It's nothing shocking, at least not here to us here at the Average Joe Sports Talk Show. If some other guys out there want to act like this is the most shocking, most amazing thing they've ever heard, that's great. But please, people, let's not compare, again, this to the ethnic barriers and the racism that was going on 50, 60 years ago to what just happened with this individual. Not even close. Moving on, there's been a lot of heated discussion, a lot of talks going on over the playoffs. Mark Jackson was very upset on how the Denver Nuggets played his star, going on and on about how they were trying to hurt him, how they were playing dirty basketball. We looked at the game, we watched the game, we looked at the plays. There is nothing dirty about this. All this is old school basketball. Mark Jackson needs to really chill out, really needs to stop being a sore loser, and just focus on this next game because they really need to win it. The Denver Nuggets are coming out and playing their stars hard. They are pushing the envelope. Yes, they are. But to say dirty, absolutely not. They're locking up this guy. They're keeping him from scoring. They're bumping. They're really playing that old school mentality basketball. And personally, I enjoy watching it more. So it'll be interesting to see what they do on tomorrow night's game. I believe the game's tomorrow night. And if they're able to pull out a win, we'll just have to wait and see. Now we have the Knicks, who just lost to the Celtics. The Celtics should not even be in the same league right now with the Knicks. Not saying that they are not an NBA team or that they couldn't be, but they got so many injuries. All their main guys are hurt, or the other ones are just too old to step up. The New York Knicks should already have taken care of Boston and should be getting ready for the Heat. Instead, what are the Heat doing? They're sitting back watching this game and probably licking their chops. Because right now, Dwayne Wade is getting the rest that he needs because his body was breaking down towards the end. Now he gets a fresh new start after just running the floor with Milwaukee. Now they're going to have to wait and see who's going to end this particular series here. And who knows, it could go 7 games. And again, Heat loving it. They are loving it. They are just waiting. They're sitting. The Heat are going to run over and beat up on whoever out of this series meets them in the next round. Guaranteed. So moving on to the other side, the West, the Clippers blow it again. I'm telling you right now, the Clippers are like the Falcons of the NBA. They got all the talent. They got some of the best players. And they just blow it. They can't seem to close. They can't seem to figure out how to just become that elite team and push over into a whole nother realm. It's really frustrating. It really is, because the Clippers are a team that could possibly push the Heat, and instead they're fighting for their own lives in this first round of the playoffs. Not to mention the Lakers already got swept, so now the Clippers could jump into the spotlight, could take over the LA scene when it comes to the sports world, and instead they're going to blow it. It's just frustrating as can be. Now the Spurs are doing very well. They won their series, and now they're just sitting and waiting. They are getting the rest. Their guys are healthy. It's going to be very interesting to see if the Spurs can push anything going towards Miami. And we'll see. I mean, I personally didn't think they had the energy and the youth to push the Heat. But it seems like they might be the only team that can do it, because just as the Clippers are slipping, OKC is doing the same thing. But they have an excuse. Their number 2 guy, Westbrook, is out for the playoffs. It's just one thing after another when it comes to someone trying to push the Heat. But what can you do? That's what the playoffs are about. It's going to just keep going on. It's going to wrap up, hopefully, with the Heat getting some competition this year for the championship. We'll just have to wait to see. Right now we're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we're going to cover a little bit on the NFL and what has transpired in the NFL, especially covering the draft. And we'll cover it right after this. Don't go anywhere. Jay Real will be right back.
Oh, wow, the stuff in the Player Zone is so cool. Oh, wow, they got Magic, sports cards, Yu-Gi-Oh, and I think I see comic books back there. And the Player Zone will even price this stuff for free. Oh, wow. Player Zone will buy, sell, and trade any of this stuff. So what can I get for her?
All right, welcome back from the break. One last note for the NBA. The gentleman's name I keep talking about or referring to that came out is openly gay from the NBA is Jason Collins. We just wanted to be sure to go ahead and stress that because we didn't want to make it seem like it wasn't important. The guy is making a very big, and it's very difficult, I'm sure, to come out like he did. But again, his name is Jason Collins. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and move on to the NFL. It's been reported from yardbarker.com that LeSean McCoy has actually gone out and picked a fight with Michael Vick, not in a physical way, but in a fun way. Over the last few weeks, they have been really lighthearted and kind of joking and kidding around with each other that Michael Vick was over the hill. LeSean McCoy is calling him an old man. Actually challenged him to a 40-yard dash. All we have to say is, LeSean McCoy, be very careful what you say and who you pick a race with, because even though Michael Vick is older, the man still has speed, and LeSean McCoy had to find out the hard way just how fast Michael Vick was. He got beat down in a 40-yard dash by Michael Vick, and all guys started tweeting it out, and it just became this big thing because Michael Vick did actually beat LeSean McCoy in the 40-yard dash. So that's pretty funny there. And then going on to draft news, Geno Smith recently fired his whole agents, his agents and their agency from representing him. A lot of folks are predicting or projecting the reason why he did this was because he's blaming them for dropping into the second round of the draft. Now, with that said, he was projected to go in the first round, but when you really break it down, he was not a first round type talent. So he was taken in the 39th pick in the second round early by the Jets, which is ridiculous. The Jets did not need another quarterback because they already have one signed to a huge deal and a pretty decent backup, but they went ahead and took him anyway. So why did Geno Smith fall in the draft? Well, some experts are saying that he has a bad attitude, that he can act very immature and almost like a baby when it comes to not getting his way. Well, he just kind of proves that when he fires his whole staff, his whole agency for being for representing him in the NFL. So just kind of have to keep an eye on that and see how things go there. It'll be interesting to see if he can grow up and mature for the beginning of the season coming up. Now, we're going to go ahead and go into a wrap-up. We've covered some NBA and then some NFL. We're going to go ahead and head back to the NBA real quick. I guess there's a lot of things going on. The Knicks reportedly wore all black suits, saying that they were basically attending a funeral because the Boston Celtics were basically going to die that evening, and they didn't. They actually beat the Knicks. Now, the Knicks need to be careful on which buttons they push, because even though they have more talent and they should be the better team right now, you make somebody mad, you poke the giant too much, and some bad things can happen. And that was very evident last night in that game. There's also some stuff going on where Carmelo's wife is getting involved. We don't have all the facts on that story, so we're just going to kind of touch that she is getting involved in some really hostile name-calling and things, tweets going on. We'll get the information, and on Tuesday's show we'll refill and recap what's going on there. And then finally, we were talking about the Clippers. There is no way in the world that the Clippers will have a chance without Griffin. He is reportedly injured, did not finish the game the other night. All I have to say is if Griffin is not in this game or in the future games, the Clippers are done. And it's just that simple, basically. They need Griffin to play. Just as they're having problems in Chicago getting their superstar to play, these guys have to understand the magnitude of these games. You only have so many chances to get into the playoffs anyways. So that is going to be very interesting to see. And then finally, in baseball news, the owner of the Cubs, the Chicago Cubs, has recently went on an interview saying that if he doesn't get his way when it comes to the stadium ideas, that he's willing to move the team. And that's just ridiculous. There's no way the Chicago Cubs is going to be allowed to move the team. So that's just a ridiculous statement. So anyway, we appreciate you guys tuning in. We have to thank the Player Zone again for hooking us up with the house, letting us come in, do our show for you folks. Hope you all enjoyed. Hope you enjoyed the commercial. And again, we have a lot of new shows coming up in the future. We also got to thank the Scud for their original music that we use in our intros and outros. Big Sarge, thank you for being out there, doing what you can do for us. And we're going to have so many more people involved with the show, especially during the summer. The Lobos are going to be coming on pretty soon. We can't wait. We're excited. But for right now, J Real's going to sign out. Peace and much love. We'll see you next time. J Real. J Real.